Welcome back. Thank you for watching. I'm Tim, and this is Egg Chasers. And what you have just missed, if you're coming here, is a brilliant chat that Rich and I were having over on his channel, Rugby Analyst. How are you doing, Rich?
Very good, Tim. Very pleased to be here.
We were just talking about round one of the Six Nations Championship. So for our review of the first round of games, go and check Rich's channel, hit subscribe, and check out his great content. Here on Egg Chasers right now, we're going to be looking ahead to round two. And Rich, I'm not going to waste any time before I get into one of the most anticipated international rugby games in years. How much are you salivating over the prospect of Ireland versus France on Saturday?
It's going to be amazing. I think before the championship, we said we thought this was going to be the decider. And as we mentioned in the last video, there's nothing we've seen in round one to say it's not the case. Ireland at home, France didn't perform that well, but got the job done. I think Ireland will say they probably didn't perform to their maximum, but still got a massive away win. So you've got both sides here wanting to improve a bit as well, I think. But they've both got wins, and they know it's all on the line. It's just going to be absolutely unbelievable. And I think I'll chuck a question straight back at you, Tim. France showed they can play in two different ways. They can do their crazy offloading game, and they can do the stick it up the jumper power game. How do you think they're going to open up against Ireland?
Well, I think they're not going to open up against Ireland. That's the point. I think they're going to. It's going to be the France that we saw against South Africa in the autumn, where they're going to bring the heavy artillery to Dublin, to the Aviva Stadium, and I think they're going to heavily go on the power game. We've seen though that Ireland are up for that, and they can mix it. And this is where I think the battle is going to be. It's two brilliant defenses, two incredibly physical teams. But I think France will probably, and if I were France, I would be thinking that's where our advantage is. We can beat them into submission a little bit eventually. It might take all 80 minutes to do so, but I think that's where if I were France, that's where I'd be thinking the game will be won or lost.
That's interesting.
What do you reckon?
Well, I think they might have scared themselves a bit last week because they started to fall apart a little bit. They over offloaded and they started giving Italy possession, and then they struggled to get back in control. So maybe they will go for a control approach and really try and grind Ireland down, get a good period of possession, which they didn't have against Italy at times. So that'll be interesting. It'll make it maybe less open, but I think you're right. I think we might have a bit of a grind on our hands, a true test, as they say.
Yeah, I mean, those games that Ireland played in the autumn were epic, and that game in Paris, France against South Africa, I mean, these huge physical spectacles, I absolutely love them. It's full-blooded, it's full-hearted, and I think we're in for another one of those. An interesting little fact which I heard the other day. I'm sure you may well know this. You're pretty good on your stats and facts, but Ireland have now won 14 games in a row at international level. The world record being held by England and New Zealand, which is 18.
Yeah.
If Ireland get the Grand Slam, they equal that record. So this game, I mean, that's not what bothers Ireland. Ireland, all that really bothers Ireland ultimately is that they managed to go beyond the World Cup quarter-final. And I think psychologically, this game is absolutely massive. And I wish I was in Dublin to watch this game. Can you imagine what the atmosphere is going to be like?
Oh, it'd be absolutely buzzing. You're right. That South Africa-France game, that was brutal. That was one, and you were just amazed at the physicality and the collisions. Will we get something like that? Maybe, like you say, Ireland defended like champions in the autumn, and I think they're going to have to do, similar here. But do you give it to the home team then? So predictions. Are you giving this to Ireland?
Before last weekend, I think I was thinking France would sneak this one. And it's the easy thing to just say, well, France weren't quite up to their best and Ireland were, beat Wales with a bit left in the tank. So the easy thing is just to go with the home team. This is so hard. This is so hard to call. I think I will go with the home team narrowly. Although Tadhg Furlong is. I'm waiting to see. Is he still out?
I think he's
Because
out. I mean,
Finley
I think I
Bealham did a
read
decent
today
job.
he was not going to be available.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's pretty big.
Yeah. So
And
that could be.
that French
Sorry, we
scrum.
were talking over each other. We were both saying the
good.
same point, that it's big.
Yeah. That French scrum looks scary. And that maul looks scary. I've got a feeling if France go to basics and keep hold of that ball, I think they could sneak this. I do. But, you know, Ireland could easily open up. They open up quick a lot of times, like they did last week. So if France keep it tight in that first 15, I think they sneak it.
I'm willing to go with you on that. I think we're going to see is quite an old school game, both in the sort of brutal physicality of it, and also in the fact that this will probably be won by scoreboard pressure, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, that kind of thing, rather than lots and lots of tries. Which again, I'm not complaining. I love those kind of games when it's when everyone it's all in and full on, and I cannot wait for this match. It's just everything afterwards is going to feel like a bit of an anticlimax, isn't it? Because it's the first game of the weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're right. I don't think we're going to see a game like we saw in New Zealand, where Ireland were playing beautiful, beautiful shape attacking rugby, and New Zealand were kind of going along with it and trying to do the same back. I think we're going to see a good old slugfest here.
Yeah, bring it on.
Yeah,
can't wait. So you're saying France by a few, and I'll stick with what I said initially. Ireland by a few.
Yeah, I'll probably change my mind tomorrow, but just imagining that if that French pack gets going, I think that it's going to be tough.
Yeah. The second game, when we've caught our breath after that epic, we get to sit down and watch Scotland v Wales.
Absolutely. Scotland are going to be confident, aren't they?
They are, but wouldn't it be very? Didn't they do this? Didn't they do this last year? Where it seems that it's a general tale with Scotland. They'll put in get a great win. Recent years, that's been against England, and then they'll go and back it up by losing to a team that they would have expected to win. They're at home, and if Scotland can come away from Saturday evening 2 from 2, they're in great shape. Do you think the confidence will translate into a performance?
Yeah, no, I think so. I mean, if Scotland did lose, no disrespect to Wales, but Wales' showing last week was woeful. If they lose after beating England, they will be absolutely crestfallen. And that's happened to them a few times before. That could be a psychological blow that they don't overly recover from in the World Cup. So I think the pressure's on here. I think they have to win this. You know, if they don't win this at home, having beaten England with Wales in such disarray last game, that would be a terrible. So I think there's a lot of pressure on Scotland here.
That's a really good point. It'll be interesting to see how they deal with that, because you've got the buoyant mood from beating England, but then, like you say, the pressure, the expectation comes with that. The pressure comes with that, and these are good players. There's just I don't know whether Hamish Watson is in the mix. I thought Luke Crosby was.
I think he's in the mix, yeah,
in his stead, and yeah. So they've got big names still to come in. Darcy Graham, I think Carl Steyn had a good game last weekend against England.
He was dangerous.
But Darcy Graham, he was good. He was dangerous, but I think Darcy Graham was on that field, and Scotland probably scored another try or two. So the point being, they've got players who can even add and elevate the performance a little bit. I'd love to know what Warren Gatland is thinking right now, and if he's looking to change things and how he's looking to change things. What would you do?
Well, in my video on selection, I think he should change things. Absolutely. He doesn't know what his best team is. Sure, he's coached before, but essentially this is a new coach coming in. I think he needs to find out about players like Grady, like Jenkins, like Schwinzer. I think he needs to get these guys and have a look. I don't think there's anything to lose and plenty to gain. I mean, you can't get worse than last week at home. So I think he rolls the changes. I think he changes both props. I think he changes a lot. I mean, there are a lot of he put a lot of faith in some of those older players last week, and a lot of those older players let him down. It's sad to say, but Tipperick, Faletau, North didn't have the greatest game. There's no reason there's no reason why he doesn't say, look, this is a new start, new team.
Yeah, they've got enough pieces of their jigsaw that make me think that this Wales team can always be competitive and beat anybody. And I like their 9 and 10. Liam Williams at fullback's great. Josh Adams, brilliant. Joe Hawkins looks like he could be a talent at international rugby in the centre. So that their back line, I'm broadly speaking happy with. I think the pack is exactly where I think the deck will get shuffled.
Yeah.
And I think it was because they didn't have a long time in camp. Warren Gatland went for people he knew, and he went for people that played together for Ospreys. And I think he'll be bolder in his selection this time, and I think that will be a good thing for Wales. So I agree with you on that. But as always, they were poor. But I just can't help looking at, and again, am I just looking on paper versus what I see on the pitch? But there's enough there that makes me think they should be a decent team.
Yeah,
yeah,
on paper, absolutely. But I mean, one thing that worries me slightly is that last year they melted psychologically in games at the end, and this time it was at the beginning. They literally shot themselves in the foot and had lost that game before it had even started. They've got to be a lot tighter than that.
Yeah. Yeah, big performances from big players. Like you said, you mentioned Dan Biggar. He's one guy that I would have thought he's like the glue in a team. He's one of my favourite players because he's just a lovely, lovely human being off the pitch, but just one of the most tenacious competitors in rugby. So yeah, they need big performances from big players, and I agree with you. Be bolder with your selection and roll the dice a little bit.
Yeah, there's some young talent
players
there.
that are
There's
exciting, not for the sake of totally, but not just putting them in because they're young, but because there's genuinely exciting players. And the one bright spark for Wales at the weekend, well, the two are the players that Warren Gatland was bold with, Jack Morgan and Joe Hawkins.
Yeah, I'd like to see Grady in the centre as well. He looks like he could be a beast. You could try the two props, Carey and Brown. Jenkins in the second row, I like. Schwinzer in the back row. I think it's worth going with them. I think they're good enough.
And Lewis Rees-Zammit will be back for the England game, but he's not available for this game against Scotland. But prediction for the game, Rich?
No, I think Scotland will win. I do. They actually, if you think about it, like team-wise, they probably actually weren't at their best against England. They didn't have those huge periods of possession. They scored some worldies, but I think they're going to want to control this game a lot more. And considering they scored those tries against England without periods of possession, if they get good periods of possession, I think they could do pretty well. So yeah, I'd say Scotland by 5 maybe.
I'm interested to see if Scotland go for this attacking from their own 22 when it's on situation, because England put a couple of players back, put their wingers back, and Scotland for defending the kick, and Scotland said, okay, well, we'll run it then. I want to see, will they be bold with, as you say, the pressure on and the expectation on, and psychologically for Wales bouncing back and Scotland dealing with the expectation of being at home, having just beaten England. That's what makes this one really fascinating and very, very significant. I agree with you. I think Scotland, I'm going to say Scotland by 6 points.
Yeah, I would say Scotland almost have to be bold, as in their selection, their backline selection. You don't not roll the dice with that selection. They're playing Jones at 13, Tuipulotu, Hogg at 15. I mean, it is an attacking backline. It's not there to defend. I'm sure they can defend, but it's not there to defend. It's to go for it.
Yeah. Every single one of their pack at the weekend put in double-digit tackle counts, and I guess that's the question mark for Scotland, is how much can they recover quickly and reload and go again, because they're going to need another massive performance. They're going to back it up. They're going to have to go big, because Wales will be hurting and they'll be coming for it.
It's a big game for Scotland.
Murrayfield. So I can't wait for that one. That's massive game. So that's the late afternoon kickoff on Saturday, leaving, and that's just the starter, setting up a Sunday with well, it's not the main event, is it? But it's a big game nonetheless. England versus Italy. It's a big game in the context of last weekend.
Fighting for the wooden spoon.
And maybe, God, don't joke about it. Rich,
I wasn't joking.
What would you? No, sadly not. How would you approach selection for England for this one? Because in the past, England at home against Italy, it's been a time when you said, oh, let's try some combinations out. How would you approach selection firstly?
Yeah, I mean, there's many ways of looking at this, aren't there? I would make a lot of changes, not because it's Italy, but because they're a new team and they generally don't know what their best 23 is. And they need to find out, and they need to find out quick. And I don't think they've got anything to lose, to be honest. So in my selection video, I made quite a lot of changes for that reason. And also, I think you have to reflect performance a bit against Scotland. There were some poor performances there. I think Atote needs to be rested, just literally rested. And they need to try some new players. They need to try, Ben Earl. Maybe they need to get Willis in there. You can make cases for sticking with people, but I think time is of the essence, and let's try and find their best 23. Arundel's available as well. He's back in the squad.
Yes, that's an interesting one. So I will go straight away after this and watch your selection video, and I will say to people watching this channel now, go and subscribe again to Rugby Analyst. Watch Rich's selection video, but give me a spoiler alert. What was your back row and what was your 10, 12, 13? Just the names.
What back row was a Ludlam 6, Earl 7, stuck with Don Brandt because he can't play that bad again. One last go maybe. And then what else did you want to know?
No, so I'm in agreement with you there. And 10, 12, 13.
10, I could make the case for Smith or Farrell, but I've gone for Smith just because 12 was Lawrence, 13 was Slade.
Okay. Well, we differ there actually all over, because I would go Farrell, Slade, Marchant. But there we go. That's that just demonstrates
that's
your
the point, yeah.
That there are more question marks than there are there are more questions than answers when it comes to selection for England. So I tend to agree with you, not changing for change's sake, but changes because some players didn't perform, some players are very talented, and actually I take a backward step to go 2 or 3 forward as we move towards a World Cup.
Yeah,
so,
and I'd say I think Pearson, Tom Pearson should probably be in there as well in the mix, because they need to have a look at him. Yeah, but I don't know how good England are going to be, but they need to find out who their best players are and then stick with them. But it could take a while.
It really could. And that, do you know what I'm starting to come around to a little bit? No, not even a little bit. I'm starting to come around to quite a lot. And I used to kind of brush it off a little bit. But maybe Eddie Jones, for the frustration that he caused me in some respects, and Joe Marchant feeling like he had to go off to Stade Francais next season is one thing that really frustrated me, that he just overlooked Joe Marchant. But one thing that Eddie Jones said that I think, you know what, he might be right on this, when he would talk about Premiership form, and he'd say, yeah, but test match animals is what I need. And I think Eddie Jones might know a thing or two when it comes to that. I think he might be right. There are some players
but you don't know until you've tried. You don't know until you've tried.
Oh, no, you're right. I completely agree. And the number of players that got churned up and spat out by Eddie Jones was another thing which some people didn't like about his tenure as England coach.
Tom Pearson and Ollie Chesham scream test match animals just from playing in the Premiership.
100% agree. And again, videos on my channel, I've been talking about Ollie Chesham for a while, and he was great. I totally agree with you on Tom Pearson. That guy is a freak.
He's roaring. Freak. He's stuck in. He loves it. He loves the fight, the scrap. Plus, he's got the X factor.
I completely agree. Henry Arundel is another one.
Very confident. Henry Arundel will fit in because he won't care. That little bit of arrogance as well, I quite like. Italy?
Yeah. So
is this their best chance ever?
23 shirt.
To beat England at Twickenham?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think it'll be enough, and they're going to have to wait for that moment, but it is no question their best chance ever. This is a legit Italy team. Kieran Crowley has been building this for a while. We saw that absolute hammering of Samoa in the autumn. That really, who did they beat? Was it Australia? I can't remember now.
Yeah.
Famous win. Who did they beat?
Yeah,
In
Australia.
the autumn. Yeah, it was Australia, wasn't it? Yeah. I was trying to remember who it was. They beat. So they hammered a good Samoa team.
Hammered them.
Beat Australia, and they're proving that wasn't fluke. That wasn't a flash in the pan or an off day for Australia. They are a legit team. It's not going to help them at the World Cup. They're probably not going to get out their pool. And it's not going to help them against England on Saturday, but it's brilliant to see that they're building, and I think they've got a scare in them. I don't think it'll be this weekend, because
So
I think
you're saying
last week
no
we've taken
chance?
so much out of them. Not no chance. I'm saying I just can't see. I can't see the Italy win. But I'm delighted that it's even a question that we're asking, because it just shows how far they've come.
Hats off to the coaching. That team is coached so well.
On my part. Yeah. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, chuck a couple more stars in there, then you're talking.
What do you think then? Are you a little worried ahead of this one?
I'm worried if there's a red card or a couple of yellow cards, but I think if it stays 15 versus 15, I think England will be better than last week. Defensively, organisation-wise, line-out's got to be better. You've got to think they'll improve some of those systems, because that line-out wasn't great. That defence wasn't great. But you saw some really good signs in their attack. Like you said, ball in play time. They are playing. There were question marks over how Borthwick would play. Attack-wise, he got Nick Evans in, and I remember saying to you, you don't bring Nick Evans in unless you're going to have a go. And they had a go a lot more than they did under Eddie Jones. So it's promising signs, and they should be better. And I think it will be too much for Italy, but who knows?
I know we'll just add to your point. Yeah, they did have a go, but I even liked the first 10, 15 minutes when it was very territorial kicking battle, and I thought England did a really good job.
To be fair to England,
I think
kicking wise, they were good.
I think
good positioning.
Yeah, they were. Jack Van Portfleet's great at that. So I think England have gotten too much for Italy, even when they're in a period of transition, and even with a bunch of changes. So I'm going to say England by 12 on this one, and I think we're feeling a lot more positive about England if we have a chat next week. I'm hoping that, touch wood.
True, but I think they may have blown their championship chance though already.
No question there. But were you thinking we might win the championship? I know Warren Gatland's come in with Wales before and won a Grand Slam, and Eddie Jones came straight in and won a Grand Slam. Was any England fan really thinking this is our championship with Ireland and France in the shape they're in?
I take your point, but if you were to design a fixture list to give them a chance, it was a home game, maybe sneak it against Scotland, then beat Italy at home, have another week to work on things, and then you play the big boys. But I think that's possibly over now.
That's a really fair point. And it's Wales up after round 3, isn't it? You save Ireland and France for the last 2 rounds. So you're right. Steve Borthwick couldn't have picked himself a better fixture list, and already staring down the barrel. But you're making me nervous now, Rich.
No, it'll be a good game. It'll be good.
No, it'll be great. It has been already, and I think this could be the best Six Nations championship. We've had amazing Super Saturdays. I can't remember. Was it like 2017 or something? That Super Saturday where just all the games were bonkers. So we've had amazing weekends. I think this could be the best championship that we've ever had, and every team is playing their part in that. Wales need to play their part in that, and hopefully England can step up and play their part in that as well. But I absolutely love round 1. Cannot wait for round 2. And there's going to be tons of content coming your way on Rich's channel. So go and subscribe to Rugby Analyst, and right here on Egg Chasers. Get stuck into the comments, predictions, thoughts, reactions to what we've said, and bring on the rugby. Nice one, Rich.
Yeah, bring it on. Thanks, Tim.